Hi everyone. I assume that you are watching this video because you are a continuous improvement professional, probably a Lean Six Sigma green belt or a Lean Six Sigma black belt. I've been noticing two types of failures in this field. Now, I don't know whether we should call it a failure, but basically not realizing the full potential as a continuous improvement professional. And there are two reasons. Number one, not starting at all. And number two, not going all the way. Let us talk about these two one by one. So there are people, good number of people who could not start with Lean Six Sigma application at the workplace uh, as a green belt or as a black belt. Now, there may be multiple reasons, and the reasons may be really valid in the sense that some companies just don't have the Lean Six Sigma practice. So the company does not have anything related to Lean Six Sigma. The management is not supportive, or the internal viewpoint is not positive, so they don't really promote this mindset. And thirdly, they've had some experience probably with Six Sigma which was not great, so the past experience is influencing people to not allow you to do a project or allow you to practice Six Sigma. So these are different reasons. There may be more, of course. There are people who have started well at some time, but they are not continuing to use these methods, not going all the way. And there are different reasons for this. Some people say that we have moved away from operational excellence. So away from excellence, for example, away from operational excellence. Some people say that now I'm in a different kind of role. So uh, completely different expectations and very busy in other things. And then there are people who have been doing and practicing Lean Six Sigma all the time, but they are not, expanding the domain, or you could say they are in a way finding limited opportunities in how the things are panning out for them in future. So we will talk about all these. Actually, I'm going to talk about some very successful approaches for people who are in both these categories, those who could not start well or not start at all, and those who have started, but they're not going all the way. So the first thing we would like to talk about is what kind of spiral do you see at your workplace? Now, let me explain what I mean by this. There are companies, in fact, there are situations where people see that there is a downward spiral. So what do I mean by that? Let me give you an idea. So in certain companies, I noticed that 10% cost reduction was done in the first year. It was considered excellent. In fact, 10% cost reduction is huge for a large organization. So it was considered really extraordinary, and there's a lot of appreciation, etc. And the next year, it was really hard to bring even 5% improvement. So they brought 3% improvement. This year, there was some struggle, and the management said that this is not really, what we expected. We expect at least 5%. And then people started thinking, what do we do next year? So they, for some reason, through very rigorous exercises and statistical analysis and use of advanced techniques, they found 7% opportunity. But they thought, let us not do 7%, let us do only 5%, because then we will save 2% for next year, because 5% will be an expectation. Now this basically shows that there's a downward spiral. What I'm trying to say is, as you keep on cutting cost, as you keep on bringing benefits to the organization, you find that it is gets even harder and harder in the next year to bring similar benefits. Now, what is an upward spiral? An upward spiral would be in a situation, for example, if you talk about sales and marketing, if the sales and marketing team does a great job and gets good number of customers, there is a possibility that they will get even more customers next year because of references, word of mouth, etc. So they are on an upward spiral. Similarly, if you talk about research and development, they did great design work, they developed new product, they were successful. There are chances they would have learned quite a bit. There are chances that they will apply their learning and expertise to doing even better. So they are on an upward spiral. Similarly, in terms of finances, a company has done very well and has now got better rating, credit rating, and they are also on an upward spiral. So there are different functions which might be on upward spiral, but as far as operational excellence is concerned, it is on a downward spiral in many companies. Now, let me not generalize it, but I should not be generalizing, but let me say this. I find that many places, wherever operational excellence is being practiced, there is more chance of downward spiral, and I notice that happening in many companies. But if we talk about business excellence as the practice, we would see that there are opportunities of an upward spiral in most of such companies. Now, what do I mean by this? If operational excellence people, the folks who have learned about operational excellence, they learn how to apply these methods, modify them, add more competencies, and get into the field of business excellence, they can get into more of upward spirals. That's exactly the message I have in this video for you. We should try and see how we can move from operational excellence to business excellence. That will really make a sea of change. So a qualified black belt can actually take new roles. He can assume new roles or get into the practice of internally suggesting these roles for himself, proactively taking up these roles for himself to get into the field of business excellence. So business excellence is, of course, a wide domain. You will get opportunities to work on projects of different kinds, and you will not be tied up with operations. Okay, so let us understand a bit more. Of course, I can see that some of you might be thinking, hey, this is not going to happen in my company. I am very limited into my scope of assignment, and I am not probably likely to interact with others on this subject because they are in a different level or they are at a different place, for example. But I can tell you that if you are determined and you are persistent with perseverance and effort and competence, you can start making a change in the organization. So what are the roles? Let us first get through with these roles and then think more about this. So you may like to become an expert facilitator of strategic business decisions in the organization. We will discuss what kind of decisions these are. You may like to take the role of an adept coach for each phase of DMAIC problem solving. I'm not talking about DMA-DV here because DMAIC is what is used more often in most of the companies. You may like to become a guide for the use of emerging technologies. Now, emerging technologies like RPA, machine learning, artificial intelligence. You might think, how can I become a guide? I don't even know much about them. But the interesting thing is, if you are a black belt, if you are a continuous improvement professional, you are in a very good position to do certain things for emerging technologies. We will talk about them in this video. Fourthly, you may like to become an agile leader. Agile leadership is a very important approach to leadership, which is quite successful in many organizations and is growing very well in different parts of the world. But I'm not just talking about agile. I'm also talking about how to build and lead high performance teams. So ability to build and lead high performance teams to great success is a very, I would say, rare capability. And this is extremely important for black belts. So it's very interesting that many black belts are not really very well equipped to lead cross-functional teams in projects of organizational importance. And this is what is making it very hard for them. Of course, it is not easy because when you have a cross-functional team, different members have different priorities, and then getting them to align to a specific goal in a very short period is always challenging. So we need to learn few competencies in this direction. And lastly, you may like to become a promoter of innovation at the workplace. Now, innovation is talked about quite a lot. People talk about creative thinking, innovation, etc., in a loose sense. But what are the techniques for innovation, and can we put them to good use, even if we are not into new product development? Actually, the interesting part is we can be innovative in whatever we do, and there are methods and techniques that we can learn. And there are very powerful ways by which this can help in organizational success. So these are 5 topics which can help a person move from a black belt, Six Sigma black belt role to a business excellence master black belt role. Okay, let me now tell you a little bit about myself and about Benchmark Six Sigma. Benchmark Six Sigma was started in 2001, and that is when we started our Green Belt program. So we were the first Indian company to start the Green Belt programs, and this happened in 2001. I conducted the first Green Belt program. We were the first Indian company in 2003 to start the Black Belt programs. We were also the first Indian company in 2007 to start the Master Black Belt programs. Interestingly, I conducted the first program for all the 3 myself. Today, we do Green Belt workshops every week. In fact, more than 1 program every week. We do Black Belt programs every month. In fact, more than 1 every month. And we do Master Black Belt programs every quarter. We don't do this more than once every quarter. Okay. And we were the first company again to start Business Excellence Master Black Belt program. This was started in 2016. Now we have conducted 22 Master Black Belt programs, and I have conducted all of them myself. So Master Black Belt is something which I have kept to myself. And we are about to conduct the 23rd MBB program, which is going to happen in Bangalore in February 2020. So that's about training. We have been doing a lot of consulting work. I have personally been involved with some of the best organizations in the world. Let me tell you a little bit about them. So I have worked with Boeing for developing their APQP program. So we actually worked with Boeing at Seattle, where they have the commercial aircrafts production, and at St. Louis, where they have the defense aircrafts production. And advanced product quality planning is a program which is highly inspired by DFSS techniques. So design for Six Sigma tools help in advanced product quality planning, which is a complete framework for product lifecycle management. And this is fundamentally a new product development approach. So this was really an advanced program, and it was extremely fortunate that we were working with Boeing and with some of the best minds in the world. And it was really excellent to, learn so many things and coach them on so many things. In fact, the Train the Trainer program, which I conducted, I got to learn from expertise at Boeing, and we facilitated a workshop which was primarily for bringing a common mindset, common way of thinking for black belts at Boeing, black belts as well as master black belts. So it was a series of workshops there. We worked with Bank Dhofar Muscat, which is an ongoing assignment. This is of course, a bank, one of the leading banks in that part of the world. And we started with the leadership team and have been deploying Lean Six Sigma methods in the organization for a few years. I have been working with Diageo. Diageo, if you know, is one of the world's, in fact, not one of the, it is the biggest liquor company in the world, and worked with at Diageo locations, at multiple locations in Europe, actually. I have worked with Procter & Gamble Product Supply Engineering Unit. I have worked with Procter & Gamble Global Headquarters in Cincinnati. Global Headquarters at Cincinnati is, a vast set of offices where all these strategic decisions are made for Procter & Gamble. So this has been excellent experience working with their senior management. I worked with the R&D team at Gillette, R&D Center at Germany. Gillette, as you know, is really wonderful as an organization for the innovativeness that they always bring out in their products. I have worked with Bata, multiple locations, different parts of the world. Bata, as you know, is a Czechoslovakian company, and we did excellent projects at each location in short duration and got wonderful benefits for Bata. I have been working with Global Analytics, which is basically a UK-based company. I've been to all their offices, working with them at UK, at USA, and at India. This is a fintech company, and it is really a very progressive, smart set of people. And we have been taking multiple initiatives and bringing good results every time. We are working with Google. I have been working with Google at Ireland and at other locations. And of course, with Google, it's always simulation-based problem-solving workshops, where again, we put Lean Six Sigma and business excellence methods to practice, which means you can see that I've been working with some of the best known companies in the world. There are many more actually. I am not spending time on this at this point, but you can, if you go to our website, our client section, you can see a good number of companies. I would have worked with more than 50 large organizations and have got a lot of experiences through them. Now, based on all these experiences, I have been building the Master Black Belt program, and it has evolved to a very good level now. So let me tell you what are the competencies which we have in the Master Black Belt program. So there's a competency called creativity and innovation, extremely important. Every company values creativity and innovation today. Competency number 2, analytic hierarchical process, AHP practitioner. The third competency is BVA, business value analyst. This is for how to make money and make more and more money. This is completely money focused competency. Business modeling expert is actually about simulations and how we can run simulations and optimize our decisions and processes based on the results of the simulation. Number 5 and number 6 are lean competencies. They are called lean practitioner and lean guide. Number 7 and number 8 are business analytics foundation and RPA foundation. These are the emerging approaches. And number 9 is the leadership excellence competency, which is for building high performance teams and leading high performance teams. I consider this to be most important actually for any black belt. So all these competencies put together is the Master Black Belt program. And the interesting thing is you can choose to do any of these competencies independently if you like. And each of them, in fact, 8 out of them are globally recognized by Exemplar Global. The 9th one we will be applying soon, and this will also be recognized competency probably very soon. Now, the 23rd Master Black Belt, which is happening in Bangalore, is 18th to 23rd February 2020, which is coming up very soon, just about a month from now. And these are classroom sessions. We also have the online sessions, which are needed to complete the Master Black Belt. So if you want more details, I will provide you a link where we have a chatbot sequence, which will take you through all the details that you need for Master Black Belt, the Business Excellence Master Black Belt. But of course, we will be covering few things which are related to the topic that we started right at the beginning. So if you remember, we talked about that a black belt should get into strategic decision making. A black belt should learn about quick demag and be the master or have significant mastery in helping people in each of these phases. We also discussed that define is most important. We said that we need to be good with emerging technologies. I mentioned that you should be able to lead high performance teams, and you would like to be a promoter of innovation at the workplace. Now, we will talk a little bit about each one of these and get a reasonable idea about what is actually covered in this and how can we really build our competence in these 5 areas. So talking about the first one, strategic decision making. Every company now and then identifies new products or new customer segments. So they have to take decisions about new products, new customer segments. Sometimes it's not a new product, but it may be a new product attribute. And similarly, it may not be entirely new customer category, but it may be a customer segment. These decisions are strategic in nature, and a black belt can learn few new things to be able to facilitate such a discussion within the company and really build his own capability and respect because of this. The second area is generating and evaluating alternatives. So long-term decision making, we have alternatives. For example, you may have to select from two vendor partners. We may have to select between two sites. We may have to select between locations for positioning our product, for example, or we may have to select marketing partners, advertising agencies, etc. So when you are evaluating alternatives for a long-term decision, which has significant investment, there are certain techniques which are very powerful and can be utilized, and a master black belt should be equipped with them. Thirdly, interventions for waste elimination in the entire value chain, which means I am not just talking about lean implementation within the company, I am talking about the entire value chain. So there are opportunities to bring improvements in the vendor side, and there are opportunities to bring improvements in the customer intermediaries like your wholesale partners or retailers. So the value chain may vary from company to company, but how can we take part in waste elimination discussions in the entire value chain and how we can contribute to that? That is the third area. And fourthly, to be able to predict business results for given assumptions of annual business plan of a company. So every company has an annual business plan, which is created at the start of the year, and there are some assumptions and there are some targets. There are some methods by which you can check whether those targets are realizable, and you can engage management in a discussion on setting meaningful targets so that we don't have a difficult time later. So these are all strategic decision making areas. The last one being, you could say, annual, but if you look at the first three, they are more longer term. And as you get involved in more longer term decisions, and you are becoming a part of the core leadership team, and then you should be well equipped to be able to facilitate this. Let us move to the second area, mastery with quick DMAC. Now, quick DMAC, why am I saying that? Because people are tired with long duration of DMAC projects. Actually, I don't mind coaching someone in a long duration DMAC project, but it should really require a long duration. So there are many projects which have to be done in short period because of the dynamicity of the industry or the needs of the business. And those projects cannot be delayed. And we need to find methods by which we make DMAC very quick. So how can a master black belt help? Master black belt can help in finding out whether the team is setting the right goals, first of all. There are methods to check whether the goals are showing a significant improvement. And secondly, they actually make enough business sense. So there are some techniques which we can learn for this question. Secondly, how can we simulate outcomes when we have limited data? Actually, if you want to do quick DMAC, then the problem will be that you won't have enough data. But there are methods to simulate outcomes and then see where we are heading. So which is very powerful and very effective. Thirdly, to find the levers which have biggest impact on outcomes. Now, sometimes the statistical techniques don't help us so much, but the experience exists and we have to use some assumptions. And if we are working with such things, we will still have to be very good with whatever we have. So how to find levers that have biggest impact on outcomes? So there are methods by which we can have reasonable confidence, and that may be good enough for the quick DMAC. So this third one is also very important. Next is, when you generate solutions, you should be able to optimize them very early. In fact, ideally, we should be optimizing the solutions before they are implemented. So what are the methods for doing this? We cover this in the Master Black Belt program. And lastly, How can we check whether the solution being implemented is really sustainable? You are saying we have some proposed controls, but how do we know that with these proposed controls, the solution will be sustainable? I can see in many companies that projects are done, and after some time, we go back to the original performance, which means overall the project is a failure. So we need mastery with use of quick DMAC, but we want results which are better than the large DMAC or large duration DMAC. So that's an interesting contradiction, and Master Black Belt will give you some methods to address this contradiction. Third area is emerging technologies. Now, this, of course, is important. So first of all, translating a business problem into technology problem is something a Master Black Belt can learn quickly. In fact, we have the practice of translating business problems into statistical problems. We can translate business problems into technology problems also. We just need to learn a few tricks or some tactics for doing this. Secondly, a Master Black Belt can assist in design of solution. Uh, I can tell you more about this in case you want to get in touch with me and discuss this little more. A Master Black Belt can help in suitability, selection of the right automation. So basically, determine whether the automation we are selecting is really suitable for the purpose. Sometimes the wrong automation is selected, and to be able to decide on this, we need to be very clear about the objective of the overall program. So what happens in information technology usage sometimes is that the program objectives are set without involvement of a cross-functional team which has a reasonable experience of working with the end-to-end process. Normally, a continuous improvement professional has some exposure to multiple functions, and that gives him an interesting opportunity, or you could say a very good capability to work on this. Fourthly, process prioritization is a very important thing, and I see companies, making a lot of mistakes in this. So, which process should be automated first? Which processes are really RPA ready, for example, is a ongoing question. Sometimes you go for automation and find that the whole process could not be automated, and it becomes a big failure later. So, how can we work on this? Determine the scope of automation. So there is scope creep, which is likely, and there is feature creep, which is likely. We will also get to learn some of the terminologies which are used in the IT world. And if the scope creep happens or feature creep happens, it's going to be hard to manage the project. So we need to learn about these concepts and engage positively and proactively. Manage risks. FMEA is a very powerful approach, and it really is wonderful for emerging technologies. And we may like to think how we can put that to use. Finally, we have to ensure that solution delivers what it was intended to deliver. Sometimes, we get into many additional expectations, and then later we find that what we started with is not really happening in the end. So someone has to keep the whole team aligned towards the primary objective, which is derived from a business requirement or a process requirement. So if we are able to align ourselves with this area and be a reasonable guide on when to use a specific emerging technology and why to use and how to use, it's going to be useful. And to get a start on this, our program will focus on RPA. And because robotic process automation is non-intrusive for most systems, and we will get to see how RPA decisions can be made. And on that basis, you can expand it later for other technologies. Fourth area is about building and leading high performance teams. Now, this is, as I said earlier, is very important. We talk about principles of agile leadership. But what is most important is motivation. When teams are not motivated, then they will not get the right results. And sometimes people are saying something in a meeting, but actually planning something else. So how can we have a well-focused, motivated team? So there are questions on motivation. There are important aspects about culture. A poor culture can actually damage the whole program. In fact, I see at a lot of places that, we say culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? You make any strategy and the culture will kill it. So how to build the right culture, performance culture, and how to sustain it, it's extremely important. And unless we are good with the foundations of this, we are going to struggle. Managing expectations and behaviors. So there are some tips, there are some techniques which we have to use, and we have to be really proactive with them. Otherwise, we might find that expectations and behaviors are not matching. And finally, if you talk about conflicts, conflicts and intergroup dynamics, these are, of course, big topics in many companies. Within the team, there may be conflicts. So how to address them? First of all, how to prevent them? And if they have happened, how to address them? And we would like to talk about intergroup dynamics, which means interfunctional complexities. So we know that these are extremely important. And I think you are able to realize right now that if we fix some of these things, many of the improvements will be really very effective. And we will be actually achieving a lot more than what we are achieving right now. So, instead of going into advanced statistics of Taguchi methodology and advanced design of experience experiments learning, which is being done in some of the master black belt courses right now, I would say we have to get better at leadership competencies, because there are bigger gaps right here. And if we can fix them reasonably, we can get wonderful returns in a short time. The fifth area is promoting innovation. So this is something that every company likes to talk about, but let us see what we mean by innovation. So when I say innovation, I don't just mean new product development or new service creation. I am also talking about new ways of finding solutions. So when I'm generating a solution in a specific DMAC project, what do I use in the improve phase? What are my methods to find creative solutions? Are we always coming back with similar solutions every time for similar projects? If that is the case, we are not creative enough and we need to learn something new. Creative approaches can also help us preempt results from proposed solutions. So someone is proposing a solution, we should be able to preempt the result, or we should be able to simulate the scenario and find out what will happen if this solution is taken, which means this is another creative way to evaluate a solution. Thirdly, we may like to improve the tools of improvement. So if I talk about 5S as a tool of improvement, if I talk about, let us say, and on board, or I can talk about uh, value stream mapping, these are tools of improvement. How can we improve the tool itself? See, many times I say to continuous improvement professionals, if you're not improving the tool, if you're not improvising or customizing or modifying the tool for yourself, for your process, then you are probably not utilizing the full power of Lean Six Sigma. So how can we improve the tools is the third area. And lastly, we need to be very creative in engaging leadership. In fact, this may be one of the biggest challenges for continuous improvement professionals. If you are talking about descriptive, predictive, prescriptive analytics, or if I talk in very simple words, if you're talking about, let us say, some box plots, and you're talking about the predicted numbers and some, optimization methods, which you may have learned in black belt. But if once you start using some statistical terms, leadership gets disengaged. So what are the creative means of engaging them? If we are able to find out how to engage the right leadership members into a powerful business improvement program, then we will be very well off. And I must tell you that we will be having an overview of some of these important statistical tools which we cover in our business analytics competency. So we will cover some of these concepts and do a refresher uh, on what you have already learned in black belt. But based on that, our main objective will be how to engage leadership. Instead of talking these statistical terms, what is the language we should use and where we should start and where we should begin. And this is going to be very important for a master black belt, which means I am saying that creativity is not just about new products or new methods. It is also about new ways of communicating with people and engaging them in an area of common interest. So these are the 5 ways by which a business excellence master black belt program can help you progress and be very positively inclined, well equipped, and well organized for facilitating important movements in the organization. Now, if you want to learn more and get more idea about how this program happens, where it is, what are the nitty gritties of each competency, and how many days is each program, etc., please go to this URL. You can type this in your mobile phone also. And if you are watching this video on YouTube, then just go to tinyurl.com BEMBB chatbot. So I repeat, tinyurl.com/BEMBB chatbot. Once you put this URL on your browser, you will see that you will get a chatbot on which you have a whole sequence which will guide you with all the information you need on Business Excellence Master Black Belt. By chance, if you are watching this video within the chatbot sequence, then you don't have to go to this because you are already into the chatbot and this video is being presented to you as a part of the chat sequence. So, all right, I think we had a good long discussion, reasonably long for a video. And we have got some interesting ideas. You can make a note of them. If you want to talk to me, please connect with me. You can go to this URL and find a method to reach me. And once we connect, we can talk about specific areas of your interest. So hope you have found this useful. And I hope you will find this chatbot sequence also very useful, and it will give you many interesting new ideas. Even if you're not going for the master black belt, it will give you many new interesting ideas on how to progress towards business excellence within your organization and how to really ensure that your career is on an upward spiral and not on a downward spiral. So thank you for watching this video and hope that you will be on a very good career path very soon. All the best.